What's going on, everybody? Ryan from the MTG Homebrew Network here today to talk to you about a brew I've been working on for a long time. I've brewed it in different color combinations, different ways to play the deck, different mentalities with how to enable, and what spells I've chosen to make it all come together. Taking off the headphones for this one. And I'm very proud to present to you Madness Wurms, Gruul Madness Wurms. I've come to find that I like the Gruul version better than like the Jund version I was working on, the red-black version. This is it. This is what I like. This is, I think, where the deck wants to be. And right now, on July 27th of 2025, this is where I like this deck a lot. So let's start with the namesake cards of the deck: Arrogant Worm and Reckless Worm. 5 mana, 3 color, red or green, 4/4 creature. It's a trampler, and it has Madness 2 and a red, or 2 and a green. Because we have 8 of these, the amount of redundancy is great. We always run into them, and it's super easy to enable them in a 2-color deck because we're on these gates. We have Cliff Gate and Manor Gate and Gruul Guild Gate. That's 12 gates. But we're also running secretly 2 more gates: Basilisk Gate. Target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of gates you control. You could target your trampling worms, and depending on how many gates you have, give them that much power and toughness. Now, this is definitely a slow burn build up to having a giant creature that just attacks in, and you can activate Basilisk Gate at sorcery speed only, so you have to definitely think about your sequences and make sure you're getting to a point where you're attacking with the worm before combat, making it big and having a clear path. So how are we enabling the madness to get worms into play? We're doing it the old-fashioned way with Wild Mongrel. Discard a card for free. No mana to activate that ability. Wild Mongrel gets +1/+1 and becomes the color of your choice until end of turn. Normally that second effect doesn't matter, but because we're playing Pauper, it kind of does. We have things like Snuff Out that we want to avoid getting destroyed by. It can kill our worms, unfortunately, but the fact that we can change our Wild Mongrel to be a black creature makes them unable to snuff at it as long as we have a card in hand. Very, very nice. It's a really nice interaction. It's come up a couple times. It's been very good. And what else are we discarding? But we have Basking Root Walla, 1 green for a 1/1 with Madness 0. So it basically is a free 1/1 when you have your enablers on the battlefield, or in your hand or whatever. But for 1 and a green, Basking Root Walla gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Play this ability only once each turn. It lets you hold up mana as if you were like about to play a counterspell, and it makes combat math really not clear to your opponent as to what plan you want to go on. As long as you have 2 mana up, this could be a 3/3, or it could be something else like, you know, your slew of lightning bolts or lightning axes or fiery tempers. Speaking of, we also have Fiery Temper, which is 1 red for 3 damage to target creature or player, but it has Madness 1. So it's Lightning Bolt that's enabled by the rest of your deck. We also have Crop Rotation, which is a 1 mana instant. Sacrifice a land and search your deck for any land card, put that on the battlefield. We're playing 2, as opposed to playing 2 more Basilisk Gates. So we can translate maybe a basic land or an escape tunnel or something into a Basilisk Gate. That way we don't have to commit to running 4 lands that only tap for colorless mana, because you really need your colored mana in the beginning of the game to set up for whatever you're doing, and the turns are usually like play Cliffgate and then hope you have like a basic. If you don't, you just go with whatever you can cast. A new addition to the deck, very, very new, is Highway Robbery. 1 and a red, you may discard a card or sacrifice a land. If you do, draw 2 cards. Also, plot for 1 and a red. The mentality I was going into building this deck is that I always wanted to be able to discard a card for free. When you get into like the Faithless Lootings and cards like it, where it does cost a mana, maybe it just costs 1, but it still costs some mana, you end up with the like Arrogant Worm having an additional tax as opposed to it just being 3 mana 4/4. That's the rate I want. We do have 2 lightning axes, but these hit really hard and are worth paying the 1 for. And sometimes we just get to put a Basking Root Wall into play for, what would otherwise be 1 mana, or we do have the 4 mana available into Blowout. Make a 4/4, blow up their thing. And 5 damage is a great bar to clear. We're trying to hit Gurmag Anglers and our opponent's Tolarian Terrors. We have enough stuff to target with this card that it's worth playing 2 of them. But back to Highway Robbery, you can plot it and not have to pay for it on the turn that you want to cast an Arrogant Worm. So if your sequence goes turn 2 plot, turn 3 worm, you've drawn 2 cards, made a 4/4, and you only have 3 lands in play. That's all you needed to do. This is a great sequence. This is perfect for the deck. When it came out, I was losing my mind. I was so happy. And it does that same kind of mentality of, I don't want to pay for my discards. We have Wild Mongrel and Highway Robbery, and I guess to an extent Lightning Axe as well, but it's worth the 1 mana. We also have 4 copies of Insolent Neonate, which kind of fit the same bill. But in a way, in my mind, it's like a little mini worm that also enables the worms. So it's like the good parts of Wild Mongrel and Arrogant Worm. It's a 1/1 with Menace, so blocking becomes questionable, and you can discard a card and sacrifice it to draw a card. This is exactly on rate. We want to be discarding a card for free, and we want to be putting our whatever madness spell into play. And finally, we have the 3 flex spots. I was trying to find something that was card advantage, but also maybe an attacker, and I landed on Crimson Fleet Commodore, which is 3 and a red for a 5/2 Ogre Pirate. Trample. When it enters, you become the monarch. I like where this is at. It's not hasty, so that's something to consider, but it's about the same rate as a worm. The toughness is rough, but becoming the monarch is really good, especially when you have a ton of tramplers running around. You can get in and keep the monarch to the best of your ability, and targeting this thing with Basilisk Gate has been really, really good. Even just giving this +3/+3 and making it trample in for 8 has been very solid and hard for decks to deal with. A notable inclusion also, there was a lot of trial and error with this kind of effect. I was playing Ash Barrens before and it ended up not being where I wanted to be. Escape Tunnel is the truth. This card is really good. It reads Evolving Wilds text plus sacrifice Escape Tunnel. Target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. You can't target your Crimson Fleet Admiral or Crimson Fleet Commodore or your worms, but you can target your Root Wallas, your Insolent Neonates, and your Wild Mongrels. This means that you can make them unblockable, target them with the gate, and then follow up with whatever else you got. It just makes your little guys evasive in a way that the Arrogant Worms are as well. Looking at the sideboard, we also have stuff that works from the graveyard. We have some Ancient Grudges to beat up on the artifact decks. Some decks want to play Fight Fire Foes or whatever that card is to exile your opponent's lands, but you can just kind of hit harder than they can most of the time, so you don't really have to worry about outpacing them per se. Where they're going to play a 2 mana 4/4 in Mirror Enforcer or whatever, we're going to play a 3 mana 4/4 with Trample that gets bigger when we target it with our lands. A good way of thinking about the lands too, just a side note, is you're being rewarded for doing what you were already going to be doing, and there are different enablers like the artifact lands and such where you can play different things, but specifically for the worms, for this, the gates are perfect. They have been really, really good. We also have Bojuka Bog, which is a graveyard hate card for all of the graveyard decks that can be tutored off of crop rotation. So it's more like you're bringing in 3 copies of Graveyard Hate as opposed to just the 1. For Graveyard Hate also, we have some Tormod's Crypts. The numbers that I have here right now aren't exactly 100% accurate. I'm also considering playing some Relic of Progenitus, so if that changes, it's just kind of a moot point. The sideboard really doesn't, the sideboard is meant to change, so it's a living document more or less. The main board is the one that I'm very much sold on, is the list. We also have 2 Pyroblasts, of course, because blue decks. Pulse of Marasa is really sweet. We're going to be sometimes sacrificing our lands with Highway Robbery and also Escape Tunnel, so if they end up in the graveyard we can rebuy them. And sometimes our creatures are going to die, so we can rebuy them as well, and gaining 6 life is kind of insane. All for 3 mana at instant speed, sign me up. We have an extra Lightning Axe against the big creatures. Sometimes we're going to run into them, and it's nice to have just 1 more enabler. And we have 2 Electrickery. This is definitely a personal choice. I like the instant speed, deal 1 damage to each creature you don't control. There's a lot of 1/1 decks running around, but we don't have a problem with them because our worms trample. You can get rid of them all in 1 foul swoop. You can play Breath Weapon if you're so inclined to clear your opponent's 2 mana or 2 toughness creatures. I don't foresee needing to do that, and I don't want to destroy my Wild Mongrels or Insolent Neonates, or even my Crimson Fleet Commodore, even though it's a pirate. You could do the non-pirate one, but at the same time, you could just instead destroy all of their stuff. Sometimes it's like a Cyclonic Rift against the decks that have all creatures with toughness 1. That's usually like the red decks, which are just trying to outspeed anyways, so if you can clear their board and then start trampling over with a worm, you're doing great. Closing thoughts, just this has been an incredibly fun deck. I recently bought it out in foil because I haven't had a foil Pauper deck before, but this is one that I know I'm going to be playing for a long time, and at this point, they could be printing more things for it, and I'll definitely consider adding them, but I just really like where it is today as this deck. Speaking briefly on other colors, I tried the Jund version and the red-black version with like Kitchen Imp and Putrid Imp, and those are good cards, and that deck is cool. You could do the Tortured Existence thing, you could do a whole different thing with like blood tokens, that all works, but I'll say it again, most of those ways, except for Putrid Imp, cost a mana to activate, and for every mana more that you pay for your worms, the worse that they are. So being able to just go 3 mana, here's a 4/4 with trample, and I get my effect from whatever I was discarding, that's the plan. That's where my mind's at, that's where I like being as far as needing to enable this plan. Kitchen Imp is a good card, it is evasive, you can target it with Basilisk Gate, and you'll probably feel good about it. But there are a ton of flyers in the format. Fairies is still a deck. We have, honestly, yeah, just Fairies is still a deck. That card gets blocked by a fairy, and then you're sad that you didn't have a trampling worm. I really love this deck. I think you should build it. I think it should get more play. Definitely check it out. Not much else to say. Thank you for watching.